He is a celebrated member of the local business community in UK. He was appointed to the House of Lords and has been vocal about his positions on Brexit, foreign relations, immigration, education, etc. He graduated at Osmania University and did his CA from London. He graduated in law from University of Cambridge. He co-founded Cobra Beer and went on to build it into a popular brand across the UK and India. In 2007, he became the founding chairman of the UK-India Business Council, and in 2008, he was awarded the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman by the President of India. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting Karan Billimoria.
Sunil, thank you very much for welcoming me, and it's a pleasure to be here. Congratulations to the All India Management Association on your Diamond Jubilee. I've just come down from London via Dehradun. My mother lives in Dehradun, 81 years old, and I went to see her. And I met with the commanding officer of the 2nd 5th Gorkha Rifles Frontier Force, my father's battalion, which he commanded in the liberation of Bangladesh. And of course, Dehradun is where I first got to know Sunil, because it was my father, the late Lieutenant General Billimoria, who introduced me to Sunil when he and Sunil were both members of the board of the Doon School. And he said to me, "You must meet this impressive young man. He's really good." Well, my father was a very good judge of character. And I'm now so proud that this impressive young man is a very good friend of mine. So thank you, Sunil, and congratulations to you. He's now chairman of the board of the Doon School. That's just been announced. So my father, when I went to study in the UK at the age of 19, I remember my father said, "Son, you're going to the UK, hopefully you will come back to India, but you may go and work somewhere else in the world. Wherever you are in the world, integrate with the community that you're living in to the best of your ability, but never, ever forget your roots." And I'm speaking to you as a son of India. Because you can leave India, but India never leaves you. And I can't stay away from my motherland for more than a few months, and I get homesick. But the country that I was brought up in, and I think the theme of this, as Sunil has outlined, of this whole conference, I always believe before you look forward, you've got to look back. And history is very important. And I, as a child, born in Hyderabad, brought up, my father in the army, I went to 7 different schools. We had an award to Kerala. I went to school in Kerala for 2 years. I've been to school in Delhi. I've been to school in Ooty. I went to Osmania University in Hyderabad before I went to the UK to Cambridge. The India that I was brought up in until the age of 19 was a country that had no respect in the world economy. It was a loser economy. It was a closed country. It was an insular country. It was an inward-looking country. India wasn't working. As a consumer, we were starved of choice. Our family car was a Triumph Herald, 1950s model. Then we got an Ambassador, 1950s model. And the other choice was a Fiat, 1950s model in the 1970s and 1980s. That was the India. But, in the words of Martin Luther King, I had a dream. And I dreamt that one day India would open up, and one day India would liberalize, and one day the greatness of this country would be unleashed on the world. And that one day started in 1991. But that 1991 was a long time, 26 years ago. And then I look back to when I went to the UK in the early 1980s. The UK, this biggest empire the world had ever known and area, was a loser country. It was called the sick man of Europe. It was an economy going nowhere. It was down and out. It did not hold any respect. And I saw in front of my eyes the transformation of the UK. The UK that I went to, entrepreneurship, was looked down upon. Second-hand car salesman. Not for good people to do. The UK that I went to, I was told by my family and friends here in India, if you stay on and work in the UK, you will never get to the top because you will not be allowed to get to the top as a foreigner. There will be a glass ceiling for you. And you know something, I'm ashamed to say, they were right 30 years ago. I trained with a firm called Ernst & Young when I qualified as a chartered accountant. There was one Indian partner, and they said he was a partner because his wife was English. Today, that glass ceiling in the UK has been well and truly shattered. Today, anyone can get anywhere in the UK regardless of race, religion, or background. Today, the UK is an aspirational country. In Ireland, an Indian has become Prime Minister. It's not long before the UK has an Indian as Prime Minister. So what is it that led to the UK's transformation? And I think leadership had a great deal to do with it, and leadership in the form of one person, Margaret Thatcher. Like her or not, she was a strong leader, she had a vision, and she had the confidence to encourage entrepreneurship and open up the UK economy. Today, thanks to what she started, you know the City of London, where I trained and qualified as a chartered accountant, if you hadn't gone to the right school, if you hadn't gone to Oxford or Cambridge, if you weren't from the right background, your opportunities of career enhancement were pretty limited. It was a closed old boys' shop. When she opened it up with Big Bang in 1986, the City of London opened up, the UK opened up, and today the UK is one of the most open economies in the world. Today London is the #1 financial center in the world. Not New York, it's London that is the #1 financial center of the world. Today the UK, a country that had an empire with only 1% of the world's population, is still one of the 10 largest economies in the world, is still a global power, is still permanent seat in the UN Security Council, G7, G8, G20, until recently top table of Europe, but we'll talk about that later. This tiny country came second in the Olympics with 1% of the world's population. Best in culture, media, entertainment, advanced engineering, aerospace, the top 2 universities in the world today, Oxford and Cambridge in the latest rankings. So I'm very proud of what the UK has done and is capable of, and that all started thanks to the leadership. And I also think another aspect of the UK that has helped it to get where it is the sense of justice and fairness. To this day, Chris will reinforce this, I'm sure, the #1 arbitration center in the world where people will go for justice to get a fair trial is the UK and London. And the only time I've ever been to court, I took on a big bank. They said, "You're mad, Karan." I studied law at Cambridge. When you did a case study that involved a bank, the lecturer would say, "Even before we start this case, remember the bank always wins." We beat the bank. We won. And I saw justice in action at close quarters in the UK. And I think that sense of justice, free speech in the UK, absolutely free speech, vibrant press, and democracy. And yet, I compare the democracy in the UK with the democracy here. In the last elections, I actually went, although I'm not entitled, I'm an overseas citizen of India, I'm not entitled to vote over here, I went to see the elections in action. I went through a voter as if I were a voter and walked through the different checks into the electronic booth, saw the way the electronic voting takes place over 3 weeks, with no exit polls, with the election commissioner, the most powerful person in the country. And just recently in Parliament, I said in the UK, we still use a pencil and paper in the UK for voting. I said, we need to learn from India. We need to catch up with India. So here we are, 70th anniversary of India's independence. 70th anniversary of that famous speech. You know why it was made at midnight? Because auspicious day-wise, the 14th was meant to be better than the 15th, but the 15th was decided the day, so Jawaharlal Nehru made the speech at midnight. and we are midnight's children, as Salman Rushdie said. What has the journey been since in those 70 years, where he had and he laid out that vision for India over its future? Have we achieved that vision? And although the liberalization started in 1991, it only really took off in 2002. These things take time. And then when it took off in 2002, and I remember, and Sunil, when I was appointed the UK chair of the Indo-British Partnership, and then which became the UK-India Business Council, and one of my colleagues on the other side was Firoz Vanziwala, and his brother is over here. And at that time, there was a BJP government. At that time, Prime Minister Vajpayee. India's growth was rocketing. India shining. Do you remember that? India shining. What happened after that? They voted out. Why? Because people felt in the rural areas they were being left out. People felt it was not an inclusive growth. So the lessons of growth and the lesson of taking off is very easy when you're taking off to get overconfident. And I've studied at the Harvard Business School, and I remember one of the sessions they were teaching us, and they said, you've got to be confident, but not arrogant. You've got to be ambitious, but humble. You've got to be ambitious. So that ambitiousness, I think that lesson has been learnt. And the leadership of India, I believe, a lot of the leadership of many big organizations, bureaucratic organizations, is a leadership where the fear of pain is greater than the pleasure of gain. You put it another way, do you play not to lose, or do you play to win? And I think now India is playing to win under Narendra Modi. I think Narendra Modi is India's answer to Margaret Thatcher. And I think what she did that has made Britain what it is today, Narendra Modi has set us on that path. He's got great initiatives. Swachh Bharat. But the reality, as Sunil said, ideas are one thing. What about the reality? I'm sorry, you drive around the towns of India, that cleanliness is not visible to me. But the idea is there, the intention is there, and I think one's got to stick with it. In Nehru's great speech, he said, he quoted Mahatma Gandhi wanting to wipe every tear from every eye. Have we done that? Oh yeah, India sent Mars missions at a fraction of the cost of NASA. India's got a space program that launched 10 satellites in one go and broke a world record. But there are still 300 million people living on less than $1 a day, and there's abject poverty in this country. The challenges are huge. And yet, we're growing at 7% a year. But are we creating enough jobs? And this is when I go to looking at the essence of it all. Are we going to get there? How are we going to get there? How fast are we going to get there? And you look at human rights. I'm a Zoroastrian Parsi. We're one of the smallest communities in the world. Do you know there are only 59,000 Parsis in India out of 1.25 billion people? And I'm proud to say anywhere I go, if I say I'm a Parsi, people are happy that you're a Parsi. And when Narayan Murthy, the first time I met him when he was the co-chair of the Indo-British Partnership when I was the UK chair, he said, I love the Parsi community. I've never met a bad Parsi. And it's meant a lot to me. And we forget this ancient religion was the religion of the Persian Empire. I said the British Empire was the biggest in the world. Well, yes, but the Persian Empire in the 6th century BC was the biggest in the world. 45% of humanity was under that empire. And Cyrus the Great then had Cyrus's Cylinder, which was the first document of human right, giving the rights to his subjects. And in the UK, in 2015, we just celebrated the 800th anniversary of Magna Carta, which is seen as the modern foundation of human rights. And I always joke and say Magna Carta, 800 years old, Cyrus's Cylinder, 2,500 years old. So democracy, to me, is a human right. Health is a human right. And I was just hosting some senior Indian civil servants in Parliament last week, and one of them is very senior in the health in India. And you know what India's health budget is? It is tiny. In total, if you add the central budget and the state's budget, it's probably about £40 billion. In the UK, for just 65 million people, we have a health budget of £120 billion, and the NHS is still not perfect. And that's 9% overall, 9% GDP spending, private and public, in the UK. In America, it's 17 to 18% of spending is on health. Just imagine if India had a sensible, high spending on health, how much better the state of the citizens of India would be. So I think looking ahead to the future, that's got to be a priority. Education. Do you know, I'm proud, my university, Cambridge, and I chair the Cambridge Judge Business School. We're number 5 in the year, in the world now. Cambridge University and Oxford are number 1 and 2 in the world right now. Birmingham University, where I'm Chancellor, is in the top 100 in the world. I'm sorry, I'm being ambitious, I'm boasting. But I'm proud of it. But there is not one Indian university in the top 200 in the world. It's American universities and British universities that are by far the best. China is starting to get lots of universities. One of the reasons, I think, is although our IITs produce some of the brightest people in the world, we need to open up our higher education. If only foreign universities were allowed to open up in India, which they're not allowed to at the moment, wow, what a difference that will make. And there are many universities waiting in the wings to open up in India that would help India and help India's growth path. The next point is entrepreneurship. The government can do so much to create the environment for entrepreneurship. GST is there now. Demonetization, whether you say it worked or not, the intention was good, to get rid of corruption. The Aadhaar, giving people that financial inclusion above anything else. And as Kennedy said, it all boils down to this expectation, even in Britain, where 40% of our government spending, 40% of GDP is government spending. And it's all about, what can the government do for me? Well, as Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do, ask what you can do for your country. And if you have citizens that have that attitude, and government is then a catalyst and creates the environment, that's what makes a real difference. And then, before I conclude, crises. This has been a bumpy road. This growth story is going to be a very bumpy road. It's not going to be smooth sailing. Already India, people, because of India's free press, because of India's democracy, people are saying, oh, is this growth story going to happen? Are enough jobs being created? Is the 7% going to carry on? And I've learned in my business in Cobra, I've nearly lost it 3 times, and each of those 3 crises is very different, but 3 things saw me through each time, and those 3 things were exactly the same. And one was having a strong brand. And India is a very strong brand. Second is having the help and support of my family and my team. And wow, the talent of India's people is there. And the third is integrity. It is better to fail doing the right thing than to succeed doing the wrong thing. So India, with its deep history, Nalanda University, we have a brewery in Bihar. At the moment it's closed because of prohibition. It's temporary. Nalanda University was closing down when Oxford and Cambridge were starting. The Emperor Ashoka, who united India, what an empire that was thousands of years ago. And I think that shows that when India is united, India is strong. I always marvel at how the British ruled this country with a very small number of people. And one of the simple reasons for that is India was fragmented. India was not united. Today, India is united. Today, we've seen the awards from different cities and different states around India. And as Amartya Sen said, we have multiple identities. So for me, I'm a Zoroastrian Parsi, I'm British, I'm a nation in Britain, but I'm Indian. And every Indian from every corner of India is an Indian first. And finally, I think to achieve this vision of entrepreneurship, of education, of health, India has to be bold. The Duke of Wellington, who defeated Napoleon in the Battle of Waterloo, his motto was fortune, favors the brave. Fortune favors the bold. And to succeed as an entrepreneur, there's only one word that sets apart successful entrepreneurs, and that is the word guts. You've got to have the guts to do it in the first place, but more importantly, you've got to have the guts to stick with it when others would give up. And India cannot give up on this journey, and it will succeed in spite of all its challenges. So I conclude by reading you two poems. The first is a poem that I wrote for the organization called TIE at their conference here in Delhi, and I will read it to you, that relates to India, relates to the UK, relates to entrepreneurship. Oh, to be an entrepreneur. Oh, to do or die, to adapt or die, to defy. Where others dare not, where they say no, you say go for it. A journey where good judgment comes from experience and experience comes from bad judgment. A journey of serendipity, where you see what everyone else sees, but think what no one else has thought. Where you have the guts to never give up, never ever give up. Where you aspire and achieve against all odds with integrity. Where you make your luck, where determination meets opportunity. You fight the might by not just doing things right, but by doing the right thing, with a large heart, trying to be the best in the world, but also the best for the world, where success is not a destination, but a journey. And as they say in the best exotic marigold hotel, the entrepreneur's journey will always be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it's not the end. And the final poem I will read is my favorite poem that sums up what is happening around the world today. And it's a short poem, and it's by Rabindranath Tagore, the Nobel laureate. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. One of the proudest things I've done in my 11 years in the House of Lords, in Parliament in the UK, was to be on the committee that put up the statue of Mahatma Gandhi in Parliament Square. You know, it's only the 11th statue. The one before was Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi. One of our challenges, by the way, was to keep it as far away from Winston Churchill as possible. And every time I drive around Parliament Square, I see people in front of Mahatma Gandhi's statue, because Mahatma Gandhi was not just for India, he was for the world. And my favorite saying of Mahatma Gandhi, if I may paraphrase it, sums it all up. Sunil, India's going to make it. We're going to make it because we believe in India. And because our beliefs become our thoughts become our words become our habits form our character, and our character determines our destiny. Thank you. Thank you very much.